we must take leadership roles. I was on the board at Berea College when the energy plant at Berea College itself was first considered to be changed and adjusted from coal to natural gas and to backup systems, biofuels. Right. Berea didn't have to do that. Berea sits in the heart or right on the edge of Appalachia. Lexington, of course, has a high dependency on coal. But as a civilization, we have always progressed and always moved forward, and we've always adapted and adjusted. And my view is that that's what we should be doing as a city. So encouraging our university and the big users of power, the big contributors to the carbon footprint, we have the responsibility to take action and initiative. And the city has taken some steps. I'll give praise and credit where it's due. Mayor Newberry has made a commitment to that. As mayor, I'll continue and advance these initiatives and take experience from my own knowledge in the construction industry and design industry and experiences and try to translate that in a positive way.
Right. I think economic development and a clean and attractive environment are inextricably linked.
Right.
If we don't have a clean environment, we're not going to have the kind of economic development we want. So since 2007, my first year in office, we created the Department of Environmental Quality and charged the folks there with the responsibility of making sure we satisfied all of our obligations under the Clean Water Act with our sewer, both our sanitary and storm sewers. We gave them the responsibility of improving our recycling capacity. We now have triple the recycling capacity we did when I started my term in office, and we have plans to expand it materially. So there are now in place some structural changes at Urban County government that have enabled us to put some folks into the business of having it as their day in, day out job of making sure that Lexington's environment improves. I certainly want to see that continued over the course of the next 4 years and well into the next century.
So we just got a Twitter question where this is so cutting edge. This is from Erica Harney, who works actually at the Council of State Governments. She's actually on our board. She just joined our board last week, 2 weeks ago. She also is a nonprofit consultant here in town. And this is a great question that Erica asked. The question is, how do you see the nonprofit sector working with government to increase economic development efforts, results, outcomes, et cetera? And that goes with Mayor Riley, who's here from Charleston. And I asked him that question, how did Charleston become so cool? And he really gave a lot of praise to the nonprofit sector. Of course, we're a nonprofit. So.
Yeah.
A
big part.
Go first.
That's what we've been talking about tonight with the Bluegrass Business Development Partnership. The Chamber of Commerce, Commerce Lexington, is a nonprofit entity. It has been a great relationship. The other partner in that relationship is another nonprofit entity, the University of Kentucky. So there is a critical role that is currently being played by those nonprofits, and we have had some great public-private partnerships, not just in the economic development realm, but in other areas of Urban County government that serve as great models, and I hope we will be able to replicate those. For instance, we've worked closely with the Bluegrass Community Foundation in building some of our infrastructure, like the Legacy Trail, which is a wonderful amenity that makes Lexington a more attractive place for companies that might wish to locate here. We have worked very closely with the United Way and with an assortment of other nonprofits to make good things happen in our community. So we have a bunch of great working models out there that I hope we will continue to expand upon going forward.
There's no clinical answer. There's no linear answer to a question exactly like that. The question coming from, I think, though, the Council of State Governments is from someone who works there is instructive, though, because if you look at the talent that exists right there in our back door and how under-leveraged and underutilized it is, that's an illustration of how much potential we really have, which is for me, illustrated in the commitment that I make in the Fresh Start Plan to an open and transparent government, to a more open and transparent government. And I say it's a whole lot more than just putting contracts and numbers on the internet. It is a spirit, which is illustrated by the support of employees that I've received in this campaign. The police and fire and civil service and corrections officers have endorsed my candidacy. And each one of those groups said, Jim, we believe that you have a vision. We believe that you have the capacity to engage us. And I believe that engaging our community in the way that you just described Joe Riley, he is a guy who said, we must recognize our past and preserve it. And that will lead us through good planning to the future, to economic innovation and development.
That's good. How much time do we have left? Quickly?
9 minutes.
9. Okay, good. So next question, Chris. We just saw it on the screen earlier.
Sorry.
All right, so here's a question. I don't know who did. I know Ted. Ted Schaefer, I think his name is. The question is, I'll read it to everybody. The creative class research, Richard Florida, who visited here in April, and people know who he is usually, indicates people choose a city for its living attributes, not just jobs. How can you make Lex appealing, or I would say cool, to these people? Because so another thing that I found too in my growing up here was Lexington was boring. And when I moved to Naples, Florida, because of the beach. People go to Chicago because Lake Michigan is really, really cool, Millennium Park and all the cool things. People go where because it's cool. So what can we do, and I think you're first this time, what can we do to make Lexington cool, which then attracts cool people who don't always look the same, who don't always talk the same and everything? How can we make it cool?
Hey, great question. One thing, take off the seriousness suit a lot more. We should take our jobs seriously, but not ourselves. And I think that applies to leadership as well. I think that really and truly engaging diversity in more than just a title or a name is what it's about. Being really and truly welcoming to different ideas, different cultures, different people. To your pushback, for example, Eric, at the council meetings, or to the pushback of Shoeshine, Lewis Cobb, the late Lewis Cobb, really listening for the dissenting voice.
Right.
If we listen to that for that dissenting voice, then we will learn. It's always the truth. It's a challenge. I have to remember it as a CEO of a company. Lots of times I've wanted to declare, this is the direction, we're going to go there, we're going to do it, regardless of what it might cost, regardless of what the consequences are. And then I step back and I think, maybe I ought to listen to some other folks. And that's where the mayor and I differed. That was the situation with Centerpoint. A lot of people in this community were saying, wait a minute, time out, please, don't do this. We're at the top of a bubble. The train, don't pull it out of the station, the bridge is out. Lots of episodes like that, which are really about leadership and really about encouraging the potential of a place.
What can we do to make Lexington more appealing to the creative class? Well, we've been doing a number of things. The Creative City Summit that was held here in April, all of the April Is events that many of the folks in this room were involved in is a great example in my book about how Lexington can be made a cooler place. Thursday Night Live, not a huge thing, but a lot of fun for a lot of folks down at Cheapside Park. The changes we've tried to make in our downtown by creating that entertainment district that centers around Cheapside and goes all the way down to Victorian Square. Those are the kinds of things that we need to do in order to make it appealing, a fun, a cool place for visitors as well as for the residents here. The Distillery District is another example of economic development opportunity. We have to do all of those things as rapidly as we can to make Lexington the kind of place that is appealing to the creative class.
Okay, real quickly on that. So I lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan for 10 years. Ann Arbor cooled down, and Anthony went to U of M. cool downtown. It's open till midnight almost every night. Middle of the winter, cold winters up there. They have one-way streets. Main Street, Ann Arbor, not very long, but it's one way. A lot of stop lights, so you go really slow, and so you're looking at all the boutiques and all the restaurants and cafes. Can we? I know it's been an issue in the past. How important will it be, or do you think it is, making Main Street, especially Main Street, Vine Street that doesn't have as much stuff on it, but Main Street, but making it one way, which I guess means Vine is one way too.
Making it two-way?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, two-way. So people slow down so they can see what's going on. So then instead of just going right to Rep Arena and going back to the suburbs, how can we make it so more interactive? Two-way streets.
We created a set of guidelines for going through that process. We have 4 two-way pair streets, well, 4 streets
Right.
that are one way,
Right.
and they're pairs. 4 pairs, 8 streets.
I could see.
Got it. And the recommendation was, which I think makes a lot of sense, is do those pairs one at a time.
Like
Learn
Short
lessons.
Street or
Short
something?
and second
All right,
is
okay.
the first one that's to
Okay.
be done. I think we'll learn lessons from there. If that works well, then we move on to
Maxwell
Line
and
and
High.
Upper, then Maxwell and
Okay,
High.
okay.
And along the way, get the Newtown Pike extension completed. That will give us the opportunity to lighten some of the traffic load. And then ultimately, if all of the feedback from those first 3 pairs is good, you turn to the Main and Vine Street. And all of the work we've done on Main and Vine has been done in such a fashion that we won't have to go back and redesign Main and Vine Street to make them two-way.
Well,
Quickly, and then
God
we'll
created
go
the
up.
heavens and the earth in 6 days. It shouldn't take forever to do great things. We've been talking about this forever. The council, more than 2 years ago, endorsed Short and Second Street to convert. I believe in it. I've said it. I live in the downtown. Our offices are on Main Street. Significant change in terms of the potential for the downtown depends on creatively engaging the traffic. All right. The questions
right.
will always be on Main and Vine. It's always going to be a question. It's going to take a lot of will to go there, if we go there. But the real question is, how do all these puzzle parts go together? The future of the Civic Center, what's that going to be? How does it impact and affect the downtown and an active and vibrant
Or a new Rep
vibrant
Arena, if a new Rep
downtown?
Arena
A
is
new
built.
Rep Arena.
Right.
Whatever is done there.
Right.
Whatever happens to Center Point. Okay.
Right.
Those are the real questions, and that's why a strategic point of view on this is so critical, that it includes all of these elements.